Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Rum Shot Diaries special. We're not even calling it season 1, episode 8 or anything like that. If you've been following the Caribbean Cricket Podcast for a while, you know that every now and again we do these special editions of the Rum Shot Diaries where we get a special guest in. And we chew the fat, we talk West Indies cricket. If you're with us live today, obviously I put this out on the socials for people to join us if they wanted to say hello. Any questions that you've got during the course of this particular special, I think you're going to really want to get involved in this one. So do throw your questions in at any point in time and I will try and come to them. But let's get straight into it. My name's Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And today on the Rum Shot Diaries special, we have Dinesh Mahabir, otherwise known as Dino, to all who know him within West Indies cricket. And if you read what I'd put out on like the kind of advert, if you want to call it that, for today's or tonight's special, or whenever you're watching this, I said former Cricket West Indies performance analyst, part of the 2016 under-19 winning World Cup team, that's Shimron Hetmeyer and all of that lot. Probably actually more important to me, although Dino might say, I'm surprised you say that. Dino was also, more importantly, the part of the team behind the 2019 West Indies emerging team that won the 50-over competition, which I actually think is more important because I think because of COVID, everyone's forgotten how significant it was that an emerging team actually won that tournament and not one of the established islands/countries in the Caribbean. And it's a shame almost that we've essentially missed 2 years of cricket domestically since then. But you know what, Dino, I can't do you enough justice in my description of what you do. I've just pointed 2 random things out there, but you've done so much that I deliberately want to start off with. And I know some of you are saying some of you in the comments already, so hello to everyone. Just quickly throw them up so Dino knows that there are people with us. Hello, Jonathan. And hello, Renelle. We see you. But Dino, straight over to you. Introduce yourself to the people.
All right, man. My name is Dinesh Mahabir, also known as Dino, and I'm a performance analyst and a high performance coach. All right, I've worked with the West Indies teams, every type of West Indies team there is for the last 10 years, Trinidad and Tobago for the last 10 years. And as Marshall mentioned, and the West Indies emerging players, I've worked with Guyana Jaguars, St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. The list goes on. But my role as a performance analyst is to get video, stats, data, any information you can get on the players, and take that information and formulate that into cricket intelligence so you can make decisions on your team and players. That's basically it in a nutshell. And let me just say it's a pleasure to be here, Marshall. I just wanted to say this. Hui! All right, that's all. And I forgot it was the Rum Shop because it's 3 p.m. on Wednesday for me, man. I would have a cold rum in my hand, man. Oh.
Do you know what? Because I was eating dinner, so I forgot to pour my drinks. So all I've got is a water next to me. But I'm gonna need that water over the course of the next however long we talk, because you're gonna come with so much hot fire that I'm gonna need to cool down.
Yeah. I gotta be careful what I say. And we are live. Yeah.
But do you know what, Dino? Like, obviously loving the fact that there are people on with us evening to you all, evening shakes to see you. But Dino, Mr. Lover has already put up, and I don't want you to go into this yet, but the reason why I start with this comment is because this, I think, is going to be the running theme through the night. So Mr. Lover says, Dino, with the technology that we have, what can we do as a West Indian community to improve our batting? Now, Dino, don't answer that yet. Because I'm saying that to me is the final conclusion.
I got a whole book on it. Oh, the lights. Yeah.
That to me is the final conclusion that we're going to build up to that crescendo. Yeah. But you know where I want you to start for me, Dino?
Yeah.
Where I want you to start for me is break it down for the people. And I'm talking about the West Indian people here. Mm-hmm. Break down performance analysis and use of data. But when I say that, Dino, I mean in the Caribbean context. Because if I say that to an English fan or an Australian fan or an Indian fan, I think they're going to have a greater awareness of how it's used in the construction of modern day cricket. But
Right.
and maybe I'm wrong, Dino. But when I
Yeah.
think of it in the West Indian context, I think we're light years behind. So talk to me about it.
Well, let's just put it this way. The current West Indian analyst with them is the analyst for the Kolkata Knight Riders.
Mm,
So they've hired a professional from the IPL. You
mm,
would have worked with TKR as well. So that, what does that say? Does that mean there's no one in the Caribbean that can fill this role? Um, but that's why, so for us hiring a foreign coach, to handle a specialist field, it's like hiring a fielding coach that's from another country. You're almost saying, well, maybe we need to look at fielding in a different way
mm,
than we are currently doing it. It's not to disrespect anyone in any way. It's just facts, right? If you hire a specialist analyst from the IPL, it says that he has this insight into cricket that no one else probably has in the
mm,
Caribbean. So that alone gives you the answer. It's an undeveloped field. It has been slowly developing over the years, even in England. And I think Luke Dunning as well. Shout out to Luke. Sorry, he meant. And you read these guys' stories of what's out there, and then you speak to them, and it's still very much undeveloped.
mm,
At the top international level, everything is there, and so West Indies now with the resources that they have with the guy from the IPL, they have everything that we need. So we at the top level, what we have access to is the same thing everyone else has access to. Let's put it that way. At the highest level.
Okay,
Yeah.
that raises two things for me.
Yeah.
But let me go with the first one then, because I notice you
Mm.
say at the top level. But
Yeah.
then this is my thing, Dino. That's at the top level.
Right.
How much access is let me take a random player now from let me take a random player from Jamaica. So Paul Palmer Jr.
Yeah.
He Jamaican middle order bats. Okay, so he plays if we didn't have COVID in a 50 over Super 50, then he plays in 4-day.
Mhm.
How much access is Paul Palmer Jr. gonna get to an analyst saying to him in Jamaica, this is where your weakness is, this is where you keep getting, or I'm probably being a bit simplistic in saying it like that, but
Right.
you
Right.
get my
No,
drift.
I understand. Yeah.
How much access is a run-of-the-mill regional player gonna get before they get to the international stage?
In terms of that, and using Jamaica as example, Jamaica, as far as I know, the cricket boards, our 6 territorial boards, as far as I know, there's maybe Barbados is probably the only team with a full-time analyst contracted to them. So I would say, with my experience with teams on and off, I would say that is completely in the hands of the coach and the player himself. Does he have his footage? Does he have his stats? Does the coach have his footage? The coach. Otherwise, I think it's not happening, right? That's just my opinion. It could be happening in Jamaica. My understanding is that Trinidad has an analyst at part-time to handle those things. I've been part of that process in Trinidad with the academies, with every national team. And so it is done periodically. The only way it's being done full-time, I would imagine, is in Barbados, who have several analysts coming through. And they've identified that this is part of their system that needs to be. You have a full-time fielding coach, batting coach, whatever coach you have. You need a full-time analyst. Barbados have a better financial structure than most of the other boards, and this is probably what makes that happen, right? So that's where I'm at in Jamaica. I think it's like a tennis player. You got to take responsibility for your own things. A tennis player doesn't have an analyst traveling with him. So in the case of Paul Palmer Jr., he has to do it for himself in the same way Nadal or someone would do it for themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love that. But then, okay, see, I told you before we went live, I said this is how it's going to work. But then, okay, do our players need help though? do you understand what, like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying an analyst or performance analyst is the missing link for all West Indian cricketers, but
right, I get
you. Just go in, go in on that. Do they need the extra help?
We need it as part of a coaching curriculum, as being like part of this is now part of the modern game. You have to, as a young player coming through, be exposed to this at some level or the other in order to propel your career. All right. That's why, for me, having worked at the top level, it's fine. It's boring. At the top level, you get everything. It's not even, you just show up and so you have a whole team of guys helping you. right? So it's just about it's about delivering the message. That's what it's more about at top level. At the junior level, you're actually teaching people. You're like, over the last 10 years I've been coaching, or 15 years coaching actually. I used cameras 15 years ago. So I to see the reaction of a kid and grown men, semi-pro guys who play club cricket, and to see there is like, man, I did not know I was doing that, or I didn't know how I looked. And even like batting guys who are batting, it's like, man, I drive that so perfect. I was like, your bat was so far, you don't even have an idea how far away from your body your bat was. And then I show it to them, and these are seasoned guys who've played 15 years of cricket, and they're like, oh my god, I've done this my entire career and I did not know what I was doing. And that's 15 years ago, and that's still not being brought in. Steps in the right direction, live streaming games, right? We see it on YouTube. YouTube, live streaming games. Now a player can go back, just click on the YouTube video and be like, damn, like 100,000 people just saw me get bowled, so they can go review their stuff personally. We're slowly getting there. The platforms are slowly improving every time in terms of having stats, wagon wheels, pitch maps. But the truth is, we need this at the grassroots level. They need to have at least, screenings is what I would say is the best way to do it. Screenings. I know maybe I might diverge here, but one of the projects I did in Trinidad, shout out to the Trinidad Cricket Board and the secondary schools board. I took my own initiative on this, and I said, listen, you guys, I looked at your season it was live streamed, a few of the games of the school guys were live streamed.
Which season are we talking?
I don't want to say the wrong thing. Maybe it was 2018.
Okay.
All right. And I looked at their season. They live streamed their finals, the T20 finals, the 50 over finals. So I looked at it and I said, there's some guys here that seem suspect actions. I went to the school guys directly. I was like, look, I saved the recordings from the live stream. These guys are suspect. I think, it's more, what's even suspect is one thing. Like if a young kid is doing something that's going to damage him, it's not safe to be doing repeatedly. That's really the concern, right? Took it to them. They said, look, we're going to help. We're going to help on the initiative. We want you to do the screening of every team in our competition. I went about 24 teams, quietly went to some games. I just showed up and just did it. So no one knew I was screening the players. And we found around 7 guys out of 24 teams. That 5 of them were the top players, top wickets. And these guys had suspect actions, right? So that's just one aspect of screening, but this screening is what we need. In the same way you would have a trainer or a physiotherapist do an assessment of a person and say, well, listen, his legs are weak and his arms need strengthening up, but you'll be all right. But here's the program. You put him on a program and it's fine. It's the same thing with an analyst. We just need to screen the guys to say, okay, let's look at his biomechanics, how his body moves. Can he bowl like this for 15 years without destroying his back or something like that? That's the basis of where it starts. Not about hitting your best friend for 6 in a game and putting it on Facebook for everyone to see it, right? Yeah.
I'm gonna throw in Shakes' question here because I think this leads in nicely to what I wanted to say. So Shake says, hi Dino, is data at a point, and I'm assuming he means in the Caribbean, where we can potentially plot the course of a player's potential development in the region? Go in on that one.
Performance data, no, because we need that from a young age, right? We're going to need that from age 13 and up, or from anytime they represent their country, or when you're part of an official system. That's really when you should have it. That being said, I am an Australian coach, level 3 coach, and during my time, I did deliver performance analysis programs for that course, for level 3 courses. And I've seen data on Michael Clark from age 13 to retirement, right? His entire plan, structured, what he did every day, workout routines, training routines, just all plotted into an Excel sheet. At age 14, when he had a rebellious phase and they thought he needed mental help, and by age 17, they realized it was just puberty. And then, like also mental data, physical data, performance data, I've seen it. I mean, these systems are in place. And if you're asking if we have that, we do not have that. right? But in the West Indies, but we have slowly been getting there with terms of medical stuff. I know for sure in terms of plotting a guy's future, medically, physically, in terms of his physicality and medical data, yes. But in terms of performance stats and that sort of thing, no, definitely not within the Caribbean. I've seen in India, the guys have so much information on their team from the history of their team, from the first ever video recorded match. They have everything, and they can predict. They use stats and algorithms to predict what their players are going to do. They have so much data on their team. We have not reached that level yet in the West Indies yet.
I'm glad you. Okay, so good. So you say yet. You said, I think about 5 minutes ago or so, you said we need to go to the grassroots. So you're effectively saying to revamp the game in the Caribbean, we got to go bottom up. We can't do, I guess, almost bolt on at the top, because the biggest issue I think most would say about players who get to international level is when all the players are getting cussed out for the whatever performance. And I would say, Dino, that this has probably been a trend certainly for me, since over the last 20 years, I'm going to say, where a player comes to international level and they don't look ready. Now,
right.
I know, yes, okay, you've introduced yourself as a performance analyst, but you remember, for those who maybe joined in late, Dino is also a level 3 qualified coach. So this also comes into your coaching aspect, as well as me talking about performance analysts here. Yeah. What is it? I guess 2 questions. What is it about the Caribbean, from your perspective and your experience, that means that lots of our players end up effectively learning on the job by the time they get to international cricket? Not all of them, but I'm going to just use that phrase. So what is it that means that international, and of course international cricket's a step up, but what I mean is, what is it that means that some of them appear to turn up with technical flaws that they should have ironed out before they got to international cricket?
I got it.
So yeah, that's what I probably mean by that question. So that was going to be 1. And 2, although you said grassroots, probably talk us through, but how or what would you actually, what's the immediate thing that needs to be changed, if that makes sense?
Yeah. All right. The first one, I kind of got lost because I got caught up in the second question.
Sorry, because and in fairness, I made it very long-winded. So the first one was about, based on your skill set as a level 3 coach and what you've seen in the domestic game, why do a lot of our players, not all, but a lot of our players, by the time they get to international level, still
let me get you.
Take it.
I worked with the under-19 teams for maybe the last 3 World Cups. Last 3 World Cups. And what we've found, and this from the coaches' perspective, is that that the players do come in at the under-19 level at underdeveloped. Let's just say that they're underdeveloped, and instead of under-19 being a finishing school to be like, we're just gonna shape the edges of these guys, they're ready to go. It's actually a school where we gotta actually teach some of the basics again. And why is this happening? It's because at the junior level, there's not enough resources, there's not enough structure, and there's probably not proper coaching. All right. If you have coaches that let kids come through a system with flawed actions and techniques, that's not proper coaching, is it? So that's got, so the like I said, financially, structurally, and the level of coaching is what affects the product that West Indies get. So just to go into that a little bit more, it is my personal belief that every territorial board should aim to be like a equivalent to a county team. All right. This has always been my vision. I don't know. I've never heard anyone else say it. All right. So I'm saying it publicly now.
No, I support it.
I've been saying this for years. I think this should be the goal of every board. At the closest to it, like I said, is Barbados, who have put financial structures in place, who have put hierarchies in place, and say this: we want to develop our cricket, and this is as close as to a county setup as we can get. County setups are, for the most part, financially independent, right? These guys have a business model as well as a cricket model. So I don't want to go into that too much, but it just says that we don't have enough resources in the West Indies to make these things happen and to have the top level coaching. And West Indies financially, it's public knowledge that we are on par with, let's say, South Africa in terms of finances coming in, and in terms of, I mean, on par with New Zealand in terms of the amount of fans. So there are models out there already in terms of fan engagement that we can get from New Zealand, and in terms of a cricket structure model that we can get from South Africa. We had Richard Pybus here that probably did some things in that direction. He's at South Africa, right? So, I mean, the models are there. Like, I got into performance analysis. They're doing it in every country. So I had people I could link up with and see what the models are. So that's what's lacking. The second part, if you could just remind me.
So the second part, and actually I'm going to twist up the second part because of what you said.
Yeah, sure.
It's interesting what you said about the under-19 level. So you take let's take the most recent under-19 star. That means if you were with the 2020 under-19 team, right?
Yeah, that's New Zealand.
And more importantly, you're also within Trinidad. So you've seen, I assume, Jaden Seals come up through the system.
Yeah.
What? Definitely. So are you saying? So scrap my second question. Let's use Jaden as an example. Why can Jaden Seals do it and others can't? Or is it purely that Jaden Seals is an exceptional talent who has bucked the trend? Because remember, we had Alzari Joseph out of the 2016 cohort, and where Jaden is now is kind of, you'll remember, Alzari came out of his cohort kind of the same as where Jaden is now, and obviously Alzari's having his a bit of struggles right now, 5 years later, whatever it might be. So what is it? What makes Sorry, let's start.
Yeah, no, I got you.
The player stand out then at that level, or is it? Are you saying no? It's just that person that has an exceptional talent base.
Like you mentioned, with Alzari was identified in the previous World Cup, and now Jaden. You got to remember, these guys. There were probably 5 other fast bowlers along with these guys, and then in terms of selecting the team, there were probably 5 more. So there were probably 10 fast bowlers in each group. From each batch, and these guys just rose to the top as the best of the group. Why? Because all rounded, they're the best. They're physically the best. They're working at their game. They're mentally strong. You know, they probably have. I mean, I know they have positive, strong values and attitudes. You know, so these guys are working on the game. Their ability to take information and apply it immediately is probably higher than a lot of the guys. Work rate, ethic, everything. They tick all the boxes. These 2 guys, right? Which just says the other guys are not ticking all the boxes, right? That's just as simple as it is. You know, you got to keep working on your game, keep developing it. It's there in the performances too. Who are the best youths that perform, and given the platforms that they have, you know? So these guys are exceptional guys. That's why they are there. That's why they have had this success and continue to develop. You can see them developing. Seals is right before your eyes. Alzari, yes, he had little injuries and so forth, but he's coming through. All right. So yeah, I think that answers it. These guys are exceptional guys, you know, and you can tell that is why the West Indies invest in certain guys. You know, you look at Pooran and Hetty before they were as established as they were now. They were already identified as these guys tick all the boxes. All right, you know, this is the thing. You know, we can take this and mold it. You know, there's a famous thing in fast bowling. Just to end with it, there's a famous thing that is said in fast bowling that you can't teach a guy to bowl fast, but you can teach him control. Right? So that's the way. Yeah. So O'Shane Thomas comes to mind. Same age as Alzari Joseph. Same age as Alzari Joseph. Same group.
O'Shane then, he's my countryman. So here's me showing that it's not about Jamaican bias then. Because to me, Dino, you look at an O'Shane Thomas, to me, O'Shane Thomas has fallen off, right? Where he was when he had his breakout year in CPL, and where he was when people in Jamaica were talking about O'Shane Thomas coming through. I'm not saying no way am I saying O'Shane Thomas is finished. There's too much raw talent there for him to just be finished. But what do you, based on what you're saying then, Dino, that means that means how I'm interpreting what you're saying is that we also have to look at the individuals. That means O'Shane has to take some ownership over what has happened to his development over the last 2 to 3 years in terms of, yes, there's been injuries as well. We've got to acknowledge that, but in terms
Yeah.
of not progressing at the rate he should have progressed at,
Right.
given attributes he's got. Is that too simplistic, or do you think
No.
there's more to it?
Think it's fair enough. We don't know. I think that's a pretty good assessment. We don't know the deeper stories behind O'Shane, what's happening. Maybe he has medical or physical issues that we're not aware of. Maybe he needs to strengthen certain areas or his stamina, or who knows. But I agree with you that that's why he was part of the West Indies system. He was identified that this is a guy that we can invest in. He's got the raw materials that we need. That with our within the West Indies talent group, that we can work with this guy and turn him into keep developing just like everyone else. And another guy, Fishhead, Odin Smith, right? Here's another guy.
Yeah.
Love this guy, man. This guy should be in the IPL. I just wish this guy had a good proper season, man. I hope it's this CPL. I really do. Where he plays every game and impacts every game, or at least is counted on, that he can be trusted. And this is what I wish for O'Shane and Odin, man. These are two guys that should regularly be in the IPL. I don't think any player, having had the kind of CPL experiences they have, would not want to be there. So maybe they have their own individual struggles in whatever way that they have to overcome. But it does raise questions of, I'll be honest, it raises questions of, do we have people capable enough of getting the best out of them? Right? At the top level, yes, we do. But what about Jamaica first class team, Trinidad first class, Trinidad batting first class? Where is it go? Well, it's revived. But I'm just saying, what is available at the top should be available in a county type setup. That's what we should have, and that's why I do what I do. I see where the gaps are.
And I'm glad you just said that's why I do what I do. So let's talk on what you do for a bit as well, because you are, in fact, I don't even want to get it wrong. I almost want you to just explain it, but you are offering courses in I guess performance analyst use and analysis, use of data. I don't know if it's coaching as well, but when you are doing these courses, by the way, because I'm intrigued, because when I was looking at it, to be honest, Dino, I was about to sign up myself.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
But you are basing this course, and I want you to talk on the course in a second, but you are basing this course, I think, it's bigger than just basing it on the Caribbean. You're basing it on whoever's interested. But when I was reading it, I was thinking, so wait, where are all the Caribbean people? Shouldn't they all be the ones who are... Because I saw your post after you'd done the recent one, and I was like, I bet there wasn't that many Caribbean names, and we're the ones who should be doing it. But just explain it to people who don't know what you're doing.
Well, like I explained my role and what it's about. You would see now, as an analyst matched with coaching is kind of like, what I did to kind of supplement what I do. I mean, I did play my entire life at semi-pro level here in Trinidad. But in terms of the courses, it's really an introduction to performance analysis in cricket. I use cricket as the sport of example, but it is parallel. There are guys who I know in football in the Caribbean who've come to the course, and I've shown them the parallels that you can implement it in football as well. Of course, my whole thing is cricket now, so it's mostly for cricket. It shows you the entire process of where the data comes from and how do you collect it and how do you go through that and turn raw data, which is like wagon wheels, pitch maps, stats, scorebooks, and video. How do you take all of this mess that you've collected and turn that into intelligence and make decisions on it, and that you could put your money on, that people do put their money on in the IPL auction and in the CPL draft, is based on this information, right? I've been lucky to work with several, not work with, but be part of the networks of some IPL analysts and guys in India, Australia, England. So I always keep up with what everyone else is doing because I just, I want to be there. The smart board is something that's coming that's really exciting, So that's it, man. I mean, the course, there's not been many West Indians. There's been some Trinis. I want to shout out Andre Coley in Jamaica, who recently sent 2 guys to the recent course, but for the most part, it's been associate nations. It's been the associate nations who actually recognize that, in order to get up there, we need to get this going. And most of the interests have been associate nations, and the shout out to them. Bermuda, Cayman Islands is interested, USA Cricket, Canada, Ireland. These are the guys that I have. I had an agent on one of the classes that
Yeah,
said,
I know who. Yeah.
so there you go. So it's just about adding value. It shows you how you can use data to market yourself and your team, which is what agents do, and how you can use data to make influence decisions and coaching. Yeah. So that's the classes. That's what it is.
Would the use of data? You're gonna say yes, but I'm only
Yes.
asking this question because people are listening,
Yeah.
so I need to answer all the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Would the use of data? So let's say, okay, when the first class system comes back again in the Caribbean, whenever that may
Yeah.
be, and 4 days, what I'm talking about here. So
Mm.
Trinidad and Tobago, I think, came second in that aborted season when
Right.
Barbados won it.
Right.
Would the use of data help Trinidad win a competition, for example, or win the 4-day, for example?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially now that all of the 4-day games are on YouTube, so you can look at opponents and you can look at yourself. If you're a batsman, you're gonna say, "All right, we got these guys next. Let me see what they did last game. What field did they put for this guy who's similar to me?" So that gets the ball rolling and puts it in their court. And that's just having it on YouTube that you could just replay, right? So yeah, definitely it's in their court. So that takes out. So in some regards, the team might say, well, okay, I'll just sit with the coach, or the coach could pick something out and say, okay, 14.5, I want the Silver to see this. His head is gone and his bat's gone in different directions, or whatever the case is. And you just make notes and you say, listen, go to these balls on the YouTube, and you're gonna see it, right? That's as basic as it is. Ideally, you want it for yourself. You want someone there to be, planning ahead. I mean, what I did with Trinidad is a lot of the times I was given 1 hour to do a presentation on the opponent's analysis, right? Which was actually very difficult for me to do it within 1 hour because I had so much stuff. But I refined it down to doing one for West Indies versus India T20 series. I had that down to like 15 minutes by the time I came to that, and that's Kohli and Rohit Sharma, man. I mean, to get that down to 15 minutes, that was really tough. But yeah, that's what we need. We need this kind of stuff at the first class level. Having it on YouTube, you bet you 90 guys, are there 90 contracted guys? Our pool is not that big. You bet you 100 first class guys are watching those YouTube games. If the first 100 views are the players, I'm telling you.
Yeah, of course. So based on, and I guess maybe you want to refer, in fact, you may want to refer to the under-19s in 2020. You may want to refer to the emerging players. And when I think of the emerging players team, the most obvious person I think of is Josh Da Silva. He was in that team. In fact, I think he definitely had the highest average, if I remember rightly, in that team. And obviously 2 years later now, he's within the West Indies setup. Who are players, granted there's not been a lot of cricket, who are players that you look at outside of the current West Indies team, one, but two, within the current West Indies setup as well, where you're like, no, you are going to be good. It might not reflect like that right now. And people might be looking at you like you're no good right now. Who are the players you look at? And I'm just before you answer, I'll call a couple of names because even if I keep it to Trinidad, so I've been keeping a close eye on some of the Trini players, someone like a Keegan Simmons. Now, to me, Keegan Simmons has the ability to come good. I don't know if he will, but when I see Keegan Simmons, I'm like, you've got the raw materials there. You should be coming good.
Yeah, take the white clothes. Take it already. Put it on. Yeah.
Solizano's another one. I look at him and I'm like, you've got the raw materials there.
Yeah.
What's the hold up here? But who are the players who you see where you're like, they are going to come good or should come good?
Those are good two examples of young guys. Solizano's been around, still pretty young. That's Trinidad. Like I mentioned, Odin Smith, man, he should be on the T20 team. I mean, he should be knocking on that door of the T20 team, man, honestly, and developing himself some more. Shiv's son, what's his?
Taj Narain.
Taj Narain had some 300 ball centuries, man, and they got back for it. when no one else is making runs, it blows my mind why a guy is being bashed for 300 ball century.
When people struggle to
Yeah,
occupy the crease,
yeah.
you and
Come
me
on,
both.
man. Come on, man. That's. I try to think of some other guys. There's Ashmead Ned, the young spinner. I would say, man, we need some leg spinners badly. In the last 6 years, I have seen very rare to see a proper leg spinner come through the youth systems. That's definitely what is lacking. I mean, since Bishu, we haven't had anyone. I don't want to say the wrong thing. No, we've got Hayden Walsh. Sorry, I don't want to say the wrong thing. But in the youth system, we haven't seen that many leg spinners. That's who I would look at now in terms of identifying what we need. We tend to have a lot of fast bowlers coming out. The Windwards, the Leewards, tend to have a lot of fast bowlers. We're still looking for some proper batsmen, right?
Yeah.
In terms of players not on the radar, Justin Greaves
Okay.
and Yannick Karaya, the two
Mm.
guys from the emerging team. Those guys were the leaders behind the team. They took the rejects and they led from the front. We had a really good staff. Shout out to that staff with one of the best setups I've ever worked in regionally. We were all professional to the T. We were all hungry. The players knew they were rejects, and that drove them even more. And to see the way Greaves and Karaya led that team, that really is what stood out for me. I think we see Harding. Now I started to think of some more guys. Keon Harding definitely looks like one for the future out of that group. But like you say, we haven't seen much after that group. Ashmead, Ned, Sinclair, these guys already knocking on the door. They're part of the system, right? So that's it. Yeah.
You made brief reference to it in passing, and you must have thought I wouldn't come back. The batting, the batting.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So after the Pakistan series ended yesterday,
right.
I was tweeting on our handles saying these were the two suggestions I made. I'm going to tell you the three suggestions I made. I said between now and going to Sri Lanka, they should have a super intensive red ball batting camp. And you call everybody in the region who you think has any ability to bat, and they're just in camp for 3 weeks. It's not going to happen. I'm just saying this stuff.
Right.
3 weeks. Because not everyone, most of our red ball squad, none of them are going to the World Cup except Jason. So 3 weeks, 3.5, whatever it might be.
I like how you think. You're thinking of solutions, so I like that. You're trying to help out the team. I get you now.
Then I said, if we can't do that, the next thing we have to do, if we're going to insist on best versus best games, and that's why I called names like Keegan Simmons, because my point is we have a core within our current setup of 30 best versus best. But my argument is because there's no first class season, we got to think outside the box, because there are players who aren't playing cricket, like a Keegan Simmons, like a Tej Shandapal, who you're not going to include in best versus best because there's no data, there's nothing to use to say that they can be. But if we keep using the same pool of players with no cricket happening, that sorry, what I'm trying to say. How much is the cricket going backwards for the people who aren't playing? So I said we got to include some of the promising youngsters and expose them. And then 3, I said I'll give you 3 names. I said I don't care. I said I don't care if any of these players play first class cricket, but they now need to just be fast tracked. One was Puram. I said, just fast track him through now. Enough. We don't no more should he play first class cricket. Just fast track.
Yeah.
Evan Lewis, who I know probably doesn't want to play Test cricket, but I was saying just force him to do it. Pick him. Pick Evan and make Evan have to say no. So,
I like that.
Pick an Evan Lewis, and of course the other one who you would have worked with in 2016. Just bring back Shimron back into the team. Because, and this is the reason I said it, though, Dino. I said because the ceiling of those 3 guys is probably higher than the players who are playing first-class cricket. That doesn't mean that Nicholas Pooran can dominate first-class cricket or red ball cricket, but his ceiling means you've got to take a punt on him at some point in time.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah,
my
man.
ideas.
Love it, love it. What came to mind immediately was I remember one 4-day season that Pollard came to the Trinidad setup and played 2 or 3 games. He made 100 in his first game. And he came to me after and he said, that 100, you send that straight to my email immediately. Yeah. He said that there's some people who think I should not be in white clothes. I need to send it to them, right? So that's an example. Like he was already an established guy. He said, look, my schedule is open. I'm actually available for a couple of games. Would you guys have me in a white clothes team? And he said, yeah, man, sure, come in. And I think if these guys would have completely full schedules, I would love the ideal situation would have any guy that you just mentioned play an entire season. I need to check, but I don't think Hetty's played an entire season of 4-day, right? So I think that's what they need to do. Based on their schedules, will it happen? I don't know. Talk about even better ideal situation. Why are all the other countries sending their teams to England and having the guys play first class cricket? Why in India, who notoriously don't send their guys anyway, are sending them to county cricket, right? So come on, Hetty, we need you in county cricket. Puran, go and play a season, play half a season. What's stopping you? What is first class in the West Indies going to do for these guys? That's probably what they're going to say. I'm just saying, this is my thoughts, not Evans or Puran's anyone. I'm just saying, what's the incentive for these guys to come and play an entire 4-day season? Right? It's not there, is it? So why not encourage these guys to play 4-day seasons in Australia or in England or somewhere else that could expand their horizon? It doesn't even have to be an entire season. Come on, agents, come on, do your work. Come on, agents.
Good.
Yeah.
Dino, thank God you said agents, because I was about to say to you, but Dino is the agents who also the agents need to look at the best. Yeah. Okay, the best for the players financially is go play some T20 leagues. Okay, we know that. Right. But surely agents also have to look at, and I'm not calling names, I know who these players' agents are. So it's not a personal dig. But an agent for a Puran has to say to him, you know what, Nicholas? You could dominate Test cricket, Come. Go play us 5 games in Australia grade cricket, or just something, just something somewhere.
Yeah. You know what? See, India is so organized. The reason they send guys to England is because they want to beat England in England. It's just basic logic. So it's like send Pujara there, send Kohli there, let them get, or Rahane there, let them get into the system. Even Ashwin went there to bowl on flatter pitches, right? So why aren't our guys doing this? Look, you mentioned Sri Lanka series next. Is that what's next?
Yeah,
in Sri Lanka?
In Sri Lanka, yeah.
Yeah, we probably have a shout to win that because it's in Sri Lanka where the pitches aren't as fast, right? So when you get a team like Pakistan who've come here with a bowling attack that's... Remember when South Africa was here? There was no bad balls being bowled. It's the same thing with Pakistan. Pakistan struggle with their batting and just continue to churn out proper bowlers, right? South Africa have a good mix. We have no answers to these bowlers with our batsmen, man. Come on. Obviously, where it's slower in Sri Lanka, it's closer to our conditions here in the West Indies. They're going to do fine. But when South Africa comes in our conditions and bowls us out, and then if Pakistan comes in our conditions and bowls us out, then what's happening, man? Who do we point the fingers to? I'll tell you what I would say in my position.
Tell me.
This is a batsman. It's got to be the batsman. Who the 4 bowlers are or 5 bowlers are that are coming to face you. You know that month or 2 ahead of time. When do series sign? 3 months in advance? I don't know, right? You know they're coming. You know that you're a West Indies player, man. Get in the nets and get some men bowling in swingers and out swingers to you, man, and get yourself working on it. Look at the guy, man. Kohli said it himself, man. Anytime you look at Kohli, he's like, I envision beating Mitchell Johnson, hitting him for 6 out of the park and laughing at him after. He envisioned that in his mind, went to sleep, looked at the footage, he lives and breathes it, man. Do our guys do that, man? Come on. Do our guys? I mean, Kohli's exceptional. Don't get me wrong, but it's just an example. How do you beat the best bowler, most aggressive guy in the world and destroy Mitchell Johnson? That's how you do it. You make it about him one-on-one. You ask Brian Lara what he did. It was every bowler was a one-on-one battle. Who were the guys that really troubled Lara? Glenn McGrath and Murali, right? I asked Lara himself, what did you do? He said, I would tell you what I did. I got a single and let the other guy bat them. Right? That's what he did until he got in or they got tired. You gotta use your brain, man. Come on. Our batsmen need to do some one-on-one stuff and say, listen, the next series is NDD. This is why I was really disappointed with the South Africa series. Above all, I know Pakistan was always going to be tough, right? But I thought we had a shout in Pakistan because they can't bat either, but they got a couple of guys, right? They got a couple of guys. But come on, man. We knew South Africa was coming here so long, man, with the same attack they always have, man. Come on, man. We should have been, you batsmen should have said, Ndidi, I know where he's weak. I'm going to take him on right there and dig it into him, you know? But what happened, man? We folded, you know?
But then for you to tell me that a batsman should have been saying, I know where he's weak.
Yeah.
Reading between the lines of what you're saying, that means, again, and I've noticed this theme through what we've been talking about, that means that you're saying not enough players do enough outside of the, and actually, I'll tell you something, Dino. Phil Simmons in a press conference before the Pakistan series, Phil Simmons said he was upset. I don't know which journalist asked him the question, but he said he's upset because he said the players have not done enough work coming into the, he said when he got to the camp, he was like, players have come back to the camp and some of them haven't done anything. And when Phil said it, I was like, for Phil to say this in a press conference means it's worse than what he's actually saying. Because this has to be the nice version of what he's saying in the press conference. So linking to what you're saying, that means again we have to say how much.
Yeah. Let me put it in perspective a little bit, right? Financially, like I said, we on par with like maybe South Africa. West Indies does not have the resources financially to prepare a team for a series the way India would, Australia would, and that sort of thing. Therefore, we find ourselves in the West Indies doing the bare minimum that we can do. We just tick the boxes and said they need nets, they need this, they need it. We got it. We got it for you. You need food, you need fruits, you need massage, you need that. You got it, right? You got it. We tick the boxes. Job done. You know, we can't do anymore because we don't resources. We can't do anymore. India can send their team to the space station to train or in the Himalayas or something, right? We can't do that. We don't have that luxury, right? We've got to make use of what we have. So why isn't the effort on making the best use of what we have then? Why not do that? You know? And if the ball is in the players' court to do work themselves, you know, cricket is this is a lot of staff in cricket say this. Cricket is the only sport that you get a full staff and they give you a trainer, a physio, an analyst, a massage therapist, blah. You think Nadal has that? He has to pay for all of that himself, right? You get all this. You get all of this. And you're treated, you know, you're pampered, and then we leave you on your own because we're segregated by islands. And then what do? You go to KFC. So, you know, you gotta understand the flip side of Virat Kohli saying, I looked at myself in the mirror and I was embarrassed. To where he is today, right? Is that if you are a professional cricketer and that's conversation is not happening, then come on, are you a professional cricketer? Real talk. No.
That we got to keep it real. So then, I'm going to go to, and we've been at it a while, so I'll try to bring this slowly to a close. But you were with, correct me if I'm wrong, the Jaguars during the the
Super 50,
the Super 50 which just went.
And
obviously Jaguars got to the final, lost to Trinidad, so you obviously must have been smiling at the
man.
But the point is Jaguars got to the final. Now the question I'm going to ask you probably is going to shock. Well, I've got a couple of questions, but one of the questions I'm going to ask you. So Shiv is the, I can't remember if he's assistant coach or if he's team manager. I don't know what his role. I can't remember what his role is.
Batting coach.
Right. The reason I raised that is because we know what Shiv was like. Shiv was meticulous as a batsman, almost single-minded in how, to the point where people cussed him for being so single-minded. We know he had his own bowling machine, which he installed, and so on and so forth. And Shiv's whole mentality to batting was, I'm never giving this away. You're going to have to find a way to get me out. Now, I would say that that's because Shiv was a generational talent of sorts. You don't average over 50 in Test cricket and not be some kind of generational talent, right?
Right.
But when Shiv then is, and this isn't about you telling me what Shiv does, but when Shiv then is with a Guyana Jaguars team, you can't. I don't know how I'm trying to word this question to you now,
Yeah.
because it can't come any more simplistic than Shiv saying to you, you got to work on your game. Like,
Right.
you've got to put
Right.
in the work. Shiv
Yeah.
shouldn't have to. I
Good
can't
point. Good
imagine
point.
Shiv having to say to someone,
Yeah.
okay, he might say, oh, correct this little flaw, correct this little technique. But what at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's got to be also about you got to be in those nets, and you got to face 700 balls in a row if you really want this. If you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do you understand what I'm trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say here? But you
Yeah.
worked with the Jaguars team, so
Yeah.
you've worked with, well, Shimron is the obvious player. He's the standout player, obviously.
Yeah.
Is Imlak in that side? Was he in that side?
Yeah. He was. He was.
The only reason I
He
say
came in.
Imlak is
Yeah.
because
He was.
when I spoke to Shimron and I said, who are players who you think have, he called Imlak's name and said
Yeah.
Imlak should be doing better in cricket. So I'm just saying
Yeah.
Imlak because Hemraj should probably be better than where he actually is.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then when I look at the Guyana team, then I'm looking at bowlers. Like, I really like the look of Niall Smith, for example.
Ooh, what a bowler. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, he should be playing for West
Yeah.
Indies in my mind, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
No.
another story. So, talk me
Yeah.
through your experience working with the Jaguars in Super 50.
Well, actually, it was during COVID this time. So it was actually the first time I worked with a Super 50 team remotely. So I would meet with the coach Crandon every day, Coach Shiv, and we would go through some plans every day. I presented some reports on opponents, that sort of thing. And I did work remotely with the team before with the St. Kitts Patriots. I worked remotely for them. That was 2016. But this year I worked remotely because of COVID, travel, that sort of thing. And it worked out well, man. I mean, from the first day, the first match, because I wouldn't have seen their preseason. So I just went on the first match. I saw a couple of the batsmen. And I was like, this is all wrong. This is all wrong. I
need examples. Tell me examples. I need to understand.
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint.
Don't give names. Just tell me what you were finding.
Fair enough. So I looked at this guy first match. He gets done after about 5 balls, 6 balls. He looked like he never held a bat in his life for the Guyana team. I look at him and I take the 6 balls. I make some notes. I draw on it and I send it to the coach Crandon. I say, Coach, this guy is completely gone off. This is what I've seen. Made the notes and stuff. Calls me back immediately as soon as he sees it. He's like, you're 100% right. I need you to send this to Shiv. We're going to work on this tomorrow in practice, right? Sends it back. All I'll say is during the tournament, that guy made 100. That's all I'm going to say. That guy went from the first ball.
I already know who you're talking about. Right?
So he went from the first ball absolutely gone. He's made 100 in the tournament. You know, these little things are the things that make a difference. Like, I'll give you an example that no one would know. Like in the final, I personally believe that they should have played another off spinner, but I did not fight it with the coach. You know, I'm like, all right, you guys did well. You're in the final. I'm not gonna make an issue and say play an extra off spinner. But Trinidad has so many left-handers that an extra off spinner would have been a thing, and that just shows like the process. You know, it's all dependent on your relationship with the coach and how the coach and the team accept you. Thankfully, the Guyana team would have known me, worked with me, most of the guys, to the point where they would say, like, listen, we don't want to have a 1 hour with Dino, okay? You, the coaches, meet with Dino, go through everything, and then tell us what's happening, right? And plus each guy would have on his phone, could log in and see all his stats, all his performances, all the opponents. So they didn't need 1 hour stuff on opponents. They just needed pointers to say, okay, remember this guy, he's weak here and he's strong here. That's it. Next guy, remember if you're fielding, put a guy over here, you know, just whatever on each person. And it's the first time in Guyana that they've done this. It's the first time they've ever had analysis with them.
And I was literally just about to say that.
The same thing with the emerging players. It was the first time. The same thing with the under-19 World Cup that we won. It was literally the first time they ever used it. I was there, man. I look, I'm going to toot my own. I'm very, very proud of it. It's not like I did nothing. I was just there, log in, press and record or something. You know, I was there. I spied on teams in the World Cup, man, to get footage on other teams. I went to their games and spied and said, okay, man, they got a pacer, a leg spinner, and this is how we're going to do it, right? So the same thing with the regional guys. I knew the team, but I knew where to look and how to approach it. So yeah, man. So those two things were really, really, and even Guyana reaching the final. That Trinidad team was an incredible team, man. Come on, to get to the final in the way that Guyana did, it was almost from day one. They were like, oh well, we know who's gonna get to the final. It's like, who else is gonna fight for it? You know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I hope that covered everything. I'm
No,
not
no,
sure.
100%, and actually
Yeah.
very, very instructive. Because I know there were certain teams at that tournament, no names mentioned, who didn't have an analyst with them. Because I knew you, Santokia told me that you were with Guyana, and we were discussing it, and I was like, well, I know some other teams don't have any analysts with them for this tournament, and so on, so on and so forth. But you know what, Dino, it's been fascinating, like I thought it would be, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. But I'm going to hand the floor to you to kind of close this off with, and because I think ultimately, I can't even find. In fact, no, we've discussed it, but moving forward, and you said at the start that performance analysis isn't even where it's at the beginning of its journey. In terms of cricket, and anybody who's fans of T20 leagues, like you can't go to a T20 league now and not have analysts and data analysts telling their franchise, we need to go for this guy, and Chris Gale now needs to bat at number 3 because and so on and so forth, and maybe shouldn't be a pinch hitter anymore, and whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the Caribbean and performance analysis and just in general cricket in the Caribbean, in an ideal world, tell me what your roadmap would be for the next 5 years.
In ideal circumstances, we would have all our youth tournaments would be treated the same way that the Super 50 is treated, or less, or a little bit lesser. We would have every single I'm talking West Indies under 15, West Indies under 17, West Indies under 19 tournaments must be given at least minimum what the 4-day is being given. And as much as possible, we should push for, you see, ESPN is not going to buy West Indies under 15 tournament. So why aren't our Caribbean guys like Sportsmax, Digicel, or whoever the case may be, why can't we get these? Why can't we get it going there, right? The technology is there now. It costs nothing to stream. You just need proper, capable people to handle it for you, all right? But, you know, this is the way. This is my ideal situation. All youth cricket will be streamed, full stop. That's it. Let's get that going. A kid is going to play under 15 and it's going to reach throughout the Caribbean. He makes a 50, makes 100. We're going to see him at 14 years old making 100. What's that going to lead to, right? You know, I'll leave people to figure it out, man. Come on, this is what we need. We need to see our kids. We need digital scoring. We need systems in place for digital scoring of our data and live streaming of our games. That's all we need across the board. And then that's just regionally, right?
Yeah.
Then we need each board to say, well, okay, I'm in the Trinidad. I'm just saying, if I'm in Trinidad board, Barbados board, I want our under 15 tournament in Trinidad stream. And then I want our under 17 stream. And then look at the information. Your pool goes now from your 90 first class cricketers to an incredible 6 times, 7 times that amount. And you could, like I told you, we haven't seen a proper leg spinner in a bit. You give me that information after 1 year, I'll find you 3 young guys who we can put into a contract.
Yeah.
Right? That's as simple as it is, guys. And there's all kind of hurdles. I don't want to say what hurdles they are, but maybe it's financial, maybe it's political, but we need sponsorship on board for these things. We need people who are going to drive these things and not just do the bare minimum because the budget says we got $10, so we can't look beyond $10. You know, you've got to say, okay, if I had $100, what would I do? You understand? And how do I get to $100? Instead of saying, oh my God, I only got $10. How do I spend it without getting everyone angry? You know, come on, man. That's not your job. Your job is not to manage $10. Your job is to make 100. Come on. That's a pun, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm joking, man. But I know you got to wrap up, man. I just want everyone to say, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm at Dinesh Mahabir on LinkedIn. I don't do any of the other fake social media platforms. I'm on LinkedIn. It's legit. You can find me there. And yeah, you can reach out my courses there. You know, you can find me there, contact information and that sort of thing. I do have the course in September during the CPL. I have a little special content coming with an IPL analyst during the CPL. So look out for that. You will see more of me in the cricket space. And thanks so much, Marshall. You asked some really good questions. It felt like that hour felt like 10 minutes, man.
I was going to
really
say,
appreciate you. Yeah.
I can't imagine. I don't know how an hour went by so quick. But what I will say as well, Dino, because you're slightly underplaying yourself. You and I discussed before we went live that you do have some things coming in the pipeline for people who are interested, not just in getting on Dino's course, but in terms of just generally what Dino has to say about performance and analysis and so on and so forth. Do go and stay tuned and hooked up into what and find out what Dino's going to have planned. And Dino, two things before I end then. One, we're going to be doing some shows during CPL. Do come on. I'm sure you're going to be watching it because I would love to catch your analysis of how this tournament goes down, because we do obviously have a World Cup coming up. And as much as the West Indies T20 team seems pretty locked in, you don't know.
Fisher, come on, get in the team.
A Shafane Rutherford could do a madness in CPL and force his way in, for example. So, I'll be reaching out. I'll be reaching out to you. And for those who were listening, Dino said he's on LinkedIn. But when this goes up on YouTube, when I press end, look at the description below, and you'll see the link,
profile link. That would be great.
The link in for Dino already. So go and click on that link. And anyone else, subscribe to the YouTube channel and so on and so forth. But I've been Marshall Hewitt, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. That's been Dinesh Mahabir. Well, I don't need to say an introduction. I've already done that, but that's been Dinesh Mahabir. Do, like I say, go and connect with him. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in. All the questions. I've seen all the comments. Some of them were just commenting to what we were saying. And tell all your friends to come and watch this, even if you couldn't get it live.
Definitely.
Thank you, everyone. And good night.
God bless Afghanistan.